Okay, so today we're going to start work on the Scottish Gaelic Tattoo Handbook app from scratch. Let me go ahead and show you some screens so that you see what this app is going to look like, and then we're going to go ahead and create our app in Xcode for the first time. So this is an inVision prototype of the application that we're going to be building. It has a launch screen, and then after the launch screen it has 4 screens. It has a home screen, a browse screen, a favorite screen, and a menu screen. We'll start setting up some of this stuff today, and we might get into looking at one of the screens specifically, but I want to go ahead and get this 4-tab structure set up for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open Xcode. In Xcode, we are going to make a new project. It's going to be, let's go with tabbed app to start, and it's going to be called Scottish Gaelic Tattoo Handbook. It's in Swift. It's using a storyboard. That's what I want. Good. And then I'll save it in Workspace. Cool. So our app has been created. Let's go ahead to the main.storyboard and take a look at what we have so far for this application. So far we have a tab bar controller. It's got a first tab and a second tab. And then in addition, we have this first view and the second view. That all looks good, but ultimately we actually need 4 of these. So we're going to go ahead and set that up now. First thing that I want to do is get 2 more screens here for our tab bar. So let's do this. I'm going to open the object library with Command-Shift-L, and then I'm going to get a view controller. Drag it onto the screen. Cool. And then what I want to do is control drag from the tab bar to my new view controller. Or maybe I can do it from view controller to view controller like this. And then I want to do a relationship segue. And it gives me a new item right there that represents my 3rd view controller. I'm going to do it again with a 4th view controller. And this is getting a little hokey looking. Let's see if we can. I find it a little tough to drag things around with my mouse pad thing, trackpad. Alright, so we need a 4th one. Command-Option-L, Object Library, View Controller. Drag that on. And then again, I want to add this relationship segue. Control drag, add relationship segue. There should be 4 things in the tab bar now. Looks good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into each of these and I'm going to change. I want each of these items to be unique. So the first item is going to be, for our selected image, we'll use, let's see what it looks like in the original. We don't have assets yet, but we'll do home, browse, favorites, and menu. Okay, so home, we'll say this house thing looks good, and our image will be the deselected one, so that's going to be that house. Great. Now let's take a look at browse as a book. So that one right there. We're going to make the selected image some kind of book, and the deselected image the deselected book. Nice. And they're called first and second. Let's name them. Let's rename this. You may have to do it from. Okay, you know what? We'll worry about that in a second. This one, actually, let's look. Oh, here's the titles. Okay, so title, home. And then this one here is going to be browse. And then the third one is favorites. So hopefully there's some kind of like star or something that we can use. And then we'll do favorites. And then this one, what is the final one? Menu, right? It's menu. So we're going to name it menu, and then we're going to give it menu. A selected image of list. I want something that can be clearly selected and deselected for right now though, so that's not going to work for me. Let's use this doc text fill thing in this. Because we're going to have custom images coming for this, but in the meantime, I just want something to show. Okay, so now let's run our application in the simulator and see how it looks. I do that with the play button in the upper left-hand corner. Sometimes this takes a second. That's it. Well, there we go. And we have home, browse, favorites, and menu. So this looks good. All right, so let's take a look at our wireframe again. The next thing that I want to do is I want to go ahead and do a commit here just to have one, so that we can keep track of our incremental progress on the application. So I'm going to back out of this, and I'm going to change directories into, what did we call this? Scottish Gaelic Tattoo Handbook, git status. So do I already have a Git repository initialized? I do. I think Xcode does that for me. So I'm going to do git add, git status, git commit -m add tab bar and icons to bottom of initial view. Cool. I'll worry about a remote a little bit later. So now, where do I want to start with this? We could start here, I guess. I wonder what clans is supposed to be when you click on it. But I don't guess it matters. So in the meantime, we could go ahead and start doing this screen, I think. Let's do that. Okay, so we're going to make a stack view, I think, with these labels, and we're going to put this thing on top. So let's go ahead and do that. In Xcode, what I'm going to do is, in the menu thing here, I'm going to go to my object library and get a label. And I'm going to drag that on here. I want the size to be, can I just come out of this and do like an inspect? Is it going to let me do that? Alright, let's try this again. Inspect. There we go. And then we need you can see each individual page this way. I want to go to all of them so that I can pick the one that I need. Not sure exactly how it's going to let me do that. Is menu on here? Let's look at browse. I don't spend a lot of time like in inVision. I'm not 100% sure how this prototype works. All right, here we go. I can view this screen. Oh, nope. It's not going to let me. It is going to let me. Oh, boy. Here we go. All right, it doesn't look like it's going to give me information about the actual font size or anything like that. There we go. All right, styles. SF Pro, text medium, 19. So we need to make it 19 points. And the font, let's see if they have SF Pro. I don't know what I just changed it to. Oh, fair, no. Heffler. I don't see SF Pro. Let me go with Heffler in the meantime. And then it's going to say, let's make this bigger. And then the color, 565458 appears to be the color. So let's do, can I type in a hex? Doesn't seem to want me to type in a hex, and I don't want to be programmatically setting this right now, so I'm going to go with a gray for now. We'll mess with it a little more later. We'll go with this dark gray color. Okay, so it needs to say about the author. It looks like that's a sans serif font. So let's choose a different font that looks a little more like what we want. That does not look like what we want. It's not totally off, so we'll start with that. Let's add a few of these labels. Good. And I don't know where they're being created. But what we can do is we can select them all and say to embed them in a stack view, and then they all appear. Beautiful. And they need to say, contact, rate the app, buy the books, copyright. Contact, rate the app, buy the books, copyright. And then there's going to be this buy on Amazon button. Let's go ahead and get that image too. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to say I want an image view. I'm going to drag it on. And I'm actually going to put about the author below it. And then I'm going to get this image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Assets. I'm going to say a new image set. And I'm going to go get the image, which I believe was this lion head right here. Let's move this out of the way. They're different. Which one is it? A little less detailed of them. Okay, so we go to the Finder, use the less detailed one. Nice. And let's call it Basic Lion Head. Then we're going to use that in our storyboard. Okay. So here the image is going to be Basic Lion Head. So far, so good. And then at the bottom, I want to put a button. So button. And we'll have this say, for now, buy on Amazon.com. I don't love that. I might ask that that be changed. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and make an executive decision here. The button's going to say buy the book. And later we'll talk about where. Great, so let's go ahead and constrain this thing a little bit. I'm going to hold down Control and drag it. Actually, that's not what I want to do. I'm going to select my stack view, and then I'm going to put constraints to all of the edges, like this. And let's see how it is supposed to line up. It looks like there's supposed to be some space. How much space? Let's try 16 and see if that looks right. Let's go to stack view, click on the constraints here. Let's look at the constraints. Okay, so actually I'm just going to delete all of these and I'm going to redo it. Hold on to the stack view, click on this. We'll do 16 there, 16 there. I'll keep 16 at the top too. It still doesn't look quite right. So I'm on my stack view. Let's edit it to 32. Whoops, 32. 32. Great, and then in the stack view, do I have the option of making a separator? Let's find out. Stack view separator. Oh yeah, this is what they... There must be a way to do this in Interface Builder without having to do it programmatically. Let's take a look again. So we have about the author, contact rate, the at by the book's copyright. We want to put lines in here, so we're going to do I guess one option is to just put views in there. Like a plain view right there. And then in the size inspector, set its width and height. So the height's going to be like 4, let's say. And the background color we'll say is going to be dark gray for now. Let's change that height a little to 2. Is it supposed to be lighter? It's a little hard to tell. Yeah, it's definitely supposed to be lighter. So let's go with light gray for the background. Perfect. So let's make another one of those. Keep putting them between. What? And then is there one between the lion and the first thing? There's not. Get rid of that. Cool. And then rather than it be this tall, let's click on this view. Let's constrain it to the super on either side. I think that's kind of what it's supposed to look like, yeah. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to get rid of all these and I'm going to do that whole process over again, so that we have access to that set of constraints. Nice, and then in the stack view I want my spacing to be something more like 20. Ultimately it'll be less than that, I think. Let's take a look at what it looks like right now though. Oh, I only get the thing once. Why? What are the constraints here? It's not constrained to either side. It should be constrained to either side. So this one looks like it is. And this one isn't. Check it out. So I'm going to have to set that on each of them. That's fine. Yep. 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 Yep, 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 yep. And finally, last but not least, okay, let's run it again and see how that looks. All right, the stuff is on the page. So now what I want to do is kind of move through each screen and sort of get this general setup into place. So now let's take a look at what favorites looks like. And none of this, so the spacing and everything isn't going to be exact. I just want to like get some of the views on there so that we can refine later. Okay, so inside favorites, it looks like you can have, so first of all, you have this little flip thing, and then you have a very similar view to what we were looking at before in the menu. So let's do that. I actually lied about one thing. I want to go ahead and make all of these view heights 1, not 2, because that looks more closer to what it is supposed to be. The view height is 2, we change it to 1. The view height is 2, we change it to 1. Programming is a very complex task. There's no tedium whatsoever. There we go. Let's see how that looks real quick before we put a pin in this for now. That looks better. All right, favorites. So I'm going to take my stack view and I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to go to my favorites thing. Where's favorites? And I'm going to paste it into there. I'm going to, oh, no. Undo that. Grab the stack view. Grab the stack view. Nope. Grab the stack. Alright, well, I guess I can move it that way. I'm going to grab that stack view. I'm going to put this thing on it. We're just going to go ahead and set some. This one's going to be 32, 32, 32, just like the other one. Beautiful. And actually, let's go ahead and set this one as well to have a bottom constraint. So I'm going to do that right here. And we'll set that bottom constraint to also 32 for now. And it's going to be a little bit strange, but that's fine. We can come back to that. And then here, let's take a look at what we have got. Bottom trailing, top leading. What's the bottom? Oh, I'm still on menu. I want to be here. In the favorites scene. Yeah, so I want a bottom one too. So let me grab that stack view and set my bottom constraint. And add that one in. It's mad because let's just start over on that. So I'm going to get rid of, not on the menu scene, on the favorite scene, I'm going to get rid of all these constraints. Then I'm going to click on the stack view. I'm going to set them all again. I'm on the menu scene again. I want the stack view in here. I want 32, 32, 32. 32. Alright, so now the next thing is we gotta... So here's my question. Is why is there a bar at the top of this one and not at the top of this one? It's not consistent. Not at the top of that one either. Okay. Well, whatever. So for favorites, we're going to get rid of this basic lion head. And instead, what we're going to put at the top, and we don't want this button either. That's going to go. And instead, we want a, whoops. Let's click on our stack view to get an object, and we want a segmented control. We're going to yank that into place right there. And for this, we're going to say constrain it to each of these spots. And then let's give that a prescribed height of, let's say 30 for now. Yeah, that looks good. Alright, and then in here, can I click on these individually? Looks like I almost can. There we go. And they need to say phrases and clans. Clans. Cool. And then for my spacing strategy, I'd kind of like it not to fill, actually. Like, I'd like the stack views. Fill. Fill equally. Fill proportionally. Let's go with that for now. These, do we want to get rid of? No, we don't. So I'm actually going to undo that fill. We can explicitly set the height on things if we need to. The clans of the Gale, shoulder to shoulder. Oh, I think here you like, I think this is dynamic. So this actually, I think, needs to be a table view rather than a stack view. So this is going to be a stack view. It's going to have that thing right there. But all of these views are gone. And let's move this out of the stack view, actually. And I'm going to say, whatever the constraints are here, we're just going to get rid of. What we're going to do instead is give this a height again. This time I'm going to make it 20. I think that's more what it's supposed to be. And then I'm going to have conflicting constraints. Oh, it wants constraints for the X position and the Y position. That's fine. So in here, let's say center horizontally in container. I need to select now. Let's get rid of this actually. We're just going to start over with this one. Segmented control, drag that on screen. Yeah, there we go. Phrases. Plans. Nice. And then here, let's say we want it 32 from either edge. Nice. And then below that, let's say, so we also want it to be 32 from the top, let's say. And then let's put a table view. Table view. And for that thing's constraints, let's go 32, 32, 32. And then put a constraint there on the vertical spacing. Beautiful. And then you'll be able to scroll on this, and you'll have these like segmented controls. Let's give this thing a prototype cell, and we'll mess with the prototype cell a little bit later. All right, so that's the basics for menu, I think. Now let's look at browse. So browse also has a segmented control. It has a search bar, and then it has a grid view. So let's do this. Where is it? So I'm going to put a segmented control. And I'm going to give that thing constraints. Again, 32. Oh, you know what? Actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Because what I want is a search bar. There we go. I actually want that on top. And so then that's going to be 32, 32, 32. Hey, Adam. How come it's upset? The constraint should be for the leading, the trailing, and the top. Why does it go off screen? We'll deal with that in a little bit. So first and second, now let's give that constraints. 32, 32, let's say 16 to get started. All right, and then let's do a grid table view and then grid view. Can I not do a grid view from the interface builder? Guess we could do a bunch of stack views. Is this static or dynamic? Looks like this is going to be dynamic. So we may want to use a collection view. Well, we'll come back to that. In the meantime, let's go ahead and set some stuff up for our home. So we want a carousel. And then we want to be able to browse between two separate things. And then we want blog posts. Cool, so let's see. Let's take a look at, as a matter of fact, let's do this. Let's go to our home here, take these things away, and then take a look at what's available to us. Label button, segmented control, text field, page control. Let's see if that's what we want. This looks to be what we want. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set up an image view. Nope. Put it in here. Command Option L, image view. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give that constraints to the top and to the sides. And then let's give it an image. So we're going to go back to Assets. We're going to add an asset, new image set, and this is going to be for this like hills situation. So let's take a look at, here we go. This is the one that I want, and then I'm going to go into my Xcode. I'm going to move my hills. Beautiful. And I'm going to name this hills because I'm creative. Alright, so I'm going to go back to my storyboard, and we're going to set this to be hills. I'm glad it adjusts. This is not the same hill. Forget it. We'll come back to it. Alright, so we have, yeah, aspect fit. That's exactly what I wanted. Cool, so what I want to do is embed that stack. And then I want my stack view to be constrained to all the edges, like so. Cute. Now I want a page control on top of that. And I want it to be, I actually don't want this in a stack view at all. I don't want it. Let's reset the stuff on there. Let's go 3200. And then where's my page control at? I want to move that up here. So I want to constrain that there. I also want it to be centered. Center horizontally in container. Beautiful. And then when we swipe through, that page control will move. We're going to put some labels on top of that. So let's get a label. It's going to go there. And it's going to be vertical spacing of that and leading spacing. Actually, that's not what I want. I want it that far, and then I want to set its leading edge. See leading? I don't see leading. Label 16 from the edge and 16 from the top, let's say. Wait. Alright, this is how we're going to do this from now on. We're going to drag from the label to the hills thing. Like that. Oh look, I have leading now. Yay! And that leading constraint is going to be right there. So I'm gonna update that constraint to 16. And I'm going to set the color to white. I'm going to set the font to semi-bold, the color to white. And the text is going to be featured phrase. That's what it says, right? Yeah. We're going to darken up now this hills view a little bit. We're going to do that with a view that goes over it. This is essentially going to mask it. And actually I'm going to move it so that it's under these other things. I'm going to do leading. Whoops, 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 whoops. I'm going to do trailing. I'm going to do top. I'm going to do bottom. And then we're going to make that view's background black, but with an alpha of 0.2. There we go, that darkens it up a little. So you can see stuff a little better. Cool. All right, we need another label. Goes in the middle here. We're going to center that horizontally. Center horizontally in container. Let's make it have, where's my label? White. And the style is going to be, I believe, a serif font, unless I am mistaken. I'm going to make it a lot bigger. Go with 42 on that. And then the next one is a sans serif font. So we'll do another label. And this is what we'll do. We'll center that vertically too. I don't think vertically in container is what I want for that. We'll come back to that. So for this one again, I want it to be white. Sans serif font is fine, but it needs to be bigger. And it also needs to be centered horizontally. Cool. Now what I would like to do is embed these 3 items in a stack view, which it won't let me do because it's currently constrained to the super. So I'm going to get rid of all this. Let's make this also a sub view there. Now it should let me embed that stuff. Cute. And then the stack view we're going to center horizontally in the container. And we're going to tell it to never go below its super view. All right, so subset over. In fact, I think that this super view, no, this super view is fine. All right, well, let's see how it looks. One thing I am noticing is that everything appears to be underneath this view, which is not what I want. But let's take a look. All right, it needs to be bigger. But browse, with the exception of the search bar situation, looks okay. Oh my gosh. There needs to be a way to cause that to lose focus. And then favorites. Need to work on favorites. And the menu. So it looks like menu and favorites are flipped right now. That's my fault. So let's go to the favorites scene, the menu scene, and let's essentially flip them. Home scene, browse scene, menu scene, favorites scene. I want to effectively make this one menu. Document. Document. And we're going to call that menu. And then we're going to go over to the favorite scene and change this. Star, dot fill, star. And then let's call it favorites. Let's run that. We'll deal with this in a second. Menu, favorites. Good. So now we need to flip the menu and favorites icons. So let's go to the tab bar controller scene and flip the order. Here we go. That should get it. There we go. Browse, favorites, menu. Okay, so now let's go to the menu scene and say about the stack view. What are your constraints, stack view? Let's get rid of them. And say that for the stack view, we want the constraints to be 32, 32, 32, 32. Here we go. And then we want our image view, which we lost. Image view, right there. We want that image to be the lion head. And we want that to have aspect fit. And it's upset because we don't want it to get clipped. We don't want anything to get clipped. All right, let's go back to our stack view. To its constraints. I'm going to get rid of all of them. About the author, contact. This is actually what I'm going to do. I'm going to take all of this. I'm going to remove it from the stack view for a second. I'm going to re-embed it. So let's go embed in stack view. There we go. And like the order is all messed up. But we can fix that. Let me fix this little platform that I made for the computer, and then we'll keep going. All right, stack view, basic line head goes up there. By the book goes down here. About the author goes up here. The view goes here. By the books goes there. The other view goes there. Why is it? No. All right, that's it. That goes there. That goes there. Forget about these views for a second. So it's going to be about the author. What is the order here? About the author, contact, rate by copyright. Contact, rate by copyright. Sweet. And then these views go in here. And let's have this stack view be left or leading. And let's say that the stack view, oops, aligns like that. And let's say that the spacing is 20. for now. We'll deal later with the rest. These need constraints. So let's take a look at the constraints that are on the view already. I'm not sure why there's a sub-view. Shouldn't be. There we go. And actually that might solve it. Let's see how it looks. Browse, favorites, menu. Okay, we don't have those separators now. So now we need to go in and set these two things on each of them, I believe. So we're going to set that leading and that trailing. Let's try it one more time. There we go. So now we've got our separators. And we've got our favorites here. Browse, home. All right, before we move on, let's go back up to the home scene. Take a look at this view that we have. So here's what I want. I'm going to take my stack view. I'm going to get rid of these constraints for now. My featured phrase, I'm going to get rid of all the constraints for now. And we'll start back here with the constraints. So I'm going to get rid of that out of the way. There are not any constraints now. This is good. So I have my hills thing and I have my view. So between these two, I'm going to control drag. And I want the top, the bottom, the leading edge, and the trailing edge to all be the same. And then when I look at my constraints, it should say view.top. Yeah, that all looks good. Now let's take a look at what the problem is. Both view and hills need constraints for their X position and their Y position. So let's do this. Let's go to hills and let's give it a constraint on the X position. And let's give it also constraints on the left and right. That should make it fill. And view actually should also fill by virtue of being constrained to hills. And then it's only upset about these views that don't have any layout constraints. So now we can bring back our featured phrase. We can control drag. I want to connect featured phrase to view. I want the leading space to be one thing, and I want the top space to be one thing. And it's upset over, it's not upset, it just needed a second. Finally, I want to pull this. Oop, no. Let me take my stack view and pull the whole thing onto my view here. Now, what I want to do is center it horizontally. And I want to have it be a certain amount down. So let's say top space to container right there. Now let's see how it looks. Because the aspect fit on that view should keep it where we want it. Okay, this is closer. I still want that image like all the way big. Because it looks like right now everything in this view layer has an opacity of 0.2, which is not what I want. And in fact, let's test that theory. So if I go to the view and I set the opacity back to 1, everything gets opaque. How do I want to do this? I don't want the alpha on this view to be 0.2. I want the alpha only on the background to be 0.2. I wonder if I can do that like this. Because if not, then what we need to do is have a transparent view over the black view, which is fine. So this just becomes transparent. And then we did another view. And we're going to call this 1 texts overlay. We're going to call this one darkening mask. We're going to say we want the top, the bottom, the leading, and the trailing. And the text overlay is going to be on top of that, and that darkening mask is going to have that black background with that 0.2 opacity. Yeah, that's what I want. And hills needs to change to aspect fill. All right, let's see how this looks. Ooh, closer. So it looks like this view still needs to have a minimum height, the hills view. So let's see what happens. Let's just see what happens if we set its height. Because I want this here. Actually, you know what we're going to do? We're going to look at the view debugger to figure out what's going on here. So we've got our stuff. And it looks like the black, the transparent, and the image view all line up. And then for some reason, the stack view goes below, which is not what's supposed to happen. So let's take another look at the main.storyboard and see if we can figure out what's going on. So let's look at our stack view and our constraints to the stack view. Oh, I see. This is probably the problem because it's not 74 high. So what if we just, for now, center it vertically in the container and see what happens. And let's have these amounts come down, actually. So let's set that to 16. And let's set that also to 16. So that's going to be further towards the upper left now. All right, well, at least everything shows up. Now we need that image's height to be higher. So let's go ahead to our hills image view here. What I would like to do is actually set its height. I'm going to add that constraint, and then I'm going to go adjust that constraint. So the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to click on hills. I'm going to say your height needs to be greater than or equal to 300. Let's see how that looks. And that's going to stretch the image a little bit, so we have to decide if that looks okay. I don't think it needs to be quite that tall anymore. Let's do go to hills and say 280. There we go. All right, that looks a little better. We might want to bring that down a little bit. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to click on the stack view. We're going to remove this center Y constraint. And instead, what we're going to do is we're going to say on the stack view to the overlay, let's set the bottom space. And I'm going to say that should be 32. Don't think that changed it. Let's try. While that's happening, But this is better than what we had. So now let's take another look at the thing here. We have browse, and then this sort of like horizontal stack view, and then some blog posts. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to pick up tomorrow in a stream right here, where we finish out the rest of the home page and make some additional adjustments to make this like image look a little bit more the way we're expecting than it currently does right now. Clearly there are a couple changes still to be made, and we can go into some of that refinement, but now we've put some of the big elements onto the screen. The last thing that I want to do before I stop the stream is make a commit here. So git status. Only the storyboard's changed and our assets, so that makes sense. Git add. And then I'm going to say git commit -m add major elements to browse favorites and menu screens. Cool. And then if we do git log one line, we have all of our commits. Beautiful. We'll come back to this tomorrow.